Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Network Hour podcast. I'm so happy to be here with you guys today. Today, we are going to be talking about strengths. It's all about strengths today. It's a Strengths Friday. And I have none other than Coach Nermine Zakhary to talk to us today about strengths. And she is a strengths expert, she's a coach, and she's going to help us today. So today's topic is how to play to your strengths. And so I'm going to let our special guest, Normine, please introduce yourselves and tell everyone a little bit about you.
Hi, everyone. Molly, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm Nermine Zakhary. I call myself your shift up coach, and I help people figure out who they are so they can own it, articulate it, then go do it on purpose. And the key is focusing on strengths building instead of weakness fixing. And I coach one on one. I also do small group training. I love speaking and facilitating workshops to help people. I teach strengths strategies to help us increase our performance, to have better relationships, and to kind of to find creative ways to solve problems. So I'm thrilled to be here and chat with you a little bit more about strengths and what that all means.
So we are so excited and happy to have you. And I talk about purpose all the time. It's all about purpose. So can you tell us how did you get into this type of coaching? Because it's very unique. I think you're the only person I've heard talk about this strengths coaching that I've come into contact with. So tell me, how did you get into it and how did it resonate with you?
It was one day, almost coming on 10 years ago. I was invited to attend a workshop at Xerox called Discover Your Strengths.
Mm.
It sounded interesting, and I did the pre-work. I took the assessment. It's the Clifton Strengths. People might know it as the Strengths Finder 2.0 assessment. So I purchased it, I did the assessment, and I got my results. And Molly, I didn't like them. I didn't like those fluffy relationship words that showed up on the top of my list, because I look at those and I said they have nothing to do with anything I've accomplished over the course of my career. In fact, by the way, these are my weaknesses. I
Oh,
looked at
wow.
words like adaptability and empathy, and people laugh when I say that, but I saw these as points of pain and real anxiety in my life. When I can't make, I'm so adaptable that I can't make a decision. It doesn't serve me or anybody around me. It's just frustration. And when I ruminate for days, about after a conversation I've had with someone, did I say too much? Did I say too little? Did I offend them? And I empathy was just on overdrive. No, these were sources of true pain in my life. And so I walked into this workshop kind of with a little bit of an attitude, thinking like this is probably just another silly personality test, and really didn't think I was going to get anything out of my time there. And I walked out of that workshop saying, everybody needs to know their strengths. Everybody needs to know their strengths. I experienced a literal paradigm shift in the course of that hour and a half that day. At some point in the workshop, we were asked to think about the things that we enjoy doing, that we looked forward to, that made us feel strong. Of course, I'm starting to feel a little bit more positive. Well, I had my list of my top 5 strengths, and I had to share these activities with the gentleman sitting next to me. I don't remember I don't remember what he looks like. I don't remember his name. If I saw him today, I wouldn't know it was him. All I remember is how I felt during the course of that conversation. As I was sharing each activity, he was pointing at my strengths. He said, Nermine, you were using that one, right? Nermine, you were using that one. And in that moment, I realized when I'm using my strengths, I'm actually experiencing joy. I am making some kind of an impact, a difference somewhere, doing something useful. And I realized that I had spent the bulk of my adult life trying to live up to someone else's expectations, never quite meeting them, or comparing myself to someone else. Well, why can't I be like so and so, or why can't I do what she does? And again, never feeling good enough. And in that moment, I felt like it was okay to just be me. It was a really, really, really big deal. And I was the only one in that conference room that went and asked about, these materials. How can I get on these my hands on these materials? How do I learn more? And I don't think a day has gone by since that I don't talk about strengths in one shape or another. So it's changed my world. I didn't know I had a calling, and on that day, I think I found it. I think I found one. So
That's amazing. That's awesome. So many times a lot of us don't even know what our strengths are. We fall into something, and it might not necessarily be our strength, but because we know how to do it, we think that we're supposed to be doing that thing all the time, and we don't take the time out to explore what our strengths are, what we're good at. So my follow-up question to that would be, how do you realize those strengths? How do you, because sometimes you don't know, right? And you might want to ask someone, and someone would say, but I think this is your strength over here. I think you're good at that over here. And you'd be like, ah, you think so? No. So how do you figure that out?
yeah, I love that you said that. Sometimes it is great to ask other people what they see in you. What doing this assessment, the Clifton Strengths assessment, helps us do is it's based on this magnanimous algorithm and 40 years of research, that it it really and asks you to decide how you really think, feel, and behave. Do you think, feel, and behave like this? Or do you think, feel, and behave like this? Or somewhere in the middle, or right smack in the middle? And based on this algorithm, it produces uh, the results for you. It rates all 34 talent themes for you in the order of dominance, and it's validating. And what's unique too is that it produces a report that's customized for you. You and I might both have adaptability, but adaptability will show up a little differently for both of us because of the combination of our strengths
Mhm.
and how we responded to those statements. And it helps to pull out the strengths from inside of us,
Mhm.
and puts them on a piece of paper that we can now, and it gives us a language, words we can use to describe and explore a little bit more about how it is that we show up and how we contribute and what brings us fulfillment. And if I can just touch on something that you said, that we don't know often what our strengths are, this drove me crazy. Like, I used to, in the beginning, here I am, a strengths coach, and I had started to, I sought out training and I certification, but I couldn't get my head around, why do I need an assessment to tell me what my strengths are? Why don't I know? And I went on this wild goose chase to really to get some answers. And what it boils down to is that because our strengths are so innate to us, we don't see them as anything special. It's just the way I do things. It's just the way I show up. Uh, I don't think it's special. It's just normal. And 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 oftentimes because it comes so easily for me and it's so natural for me, I might have an expectation that you should be able to do the same things. It's just natural. And what doing this exploration does for us is it helps us realize how unique and special we are and how unique and special people around us are. And how to then we start to think, how do we tap into the gifts that that I have and the people around me have?
So, to people that are listening this podcast now and might not have access to an assessment or whatever to do, and they listening to you and hearing you talking about strengths, and they're trying to figure out, oh, how can I figure out what my strengths are? What steps would you tell them to take to figure it out? Is there something that they can do to realize what their strengths are and start walking in those strengths? What can they do to find that out?
Yeah, there's well with before without even doing the I highly encourage this particular strengths assessment and several others that I can recommend. Outside of that, there are other things that they can do to really start noticing. So, um, what are the, you know, pay attention to the things, the activities that you are naturally drawn to, the things you yearn, that internal force that leads you to a particular activity. Something else you can do, uh, think about, where does learning come easily for you? Where's that rapid learning? There's also, think about the times when you feel that deep satisfaction, contentment. There's like this fulfillment that you feel when you've completed an activity. You can also notice, when you experience timelessness, you're so engrossed in an activity, you lose all track of time. And then something else you can notice is, those moments, those glimpses of excellence. When you look back on something you've completed and say, wow, I just did that. So these are things that you can start paying attention to. Things you're not naturally drawn to, where learning comes easy, deep satisfaction, where you lose track of time, and when those moments, glimpses of excellence. And and reflect, the questions that I was asked that day were really telling. What do you look forward to? What do you enjoy doing? What does make you feel strong?
Mhm.
And talk out loud with folks and ask them, where do you see me contributing? Where do you see, uh, where I make an impact? What do you appreciate about how I work or how I show up or how I relate to you or others? So without taking an assessment, you can get a lot of information about yourself and some nice validation and cool comments from other people as well. And then from there, and again, I'm happy to share with you various links for different types of assessments that you can take. The Clifton Strengths. There's also Stand Out, which gives you reports to your top 2 out of 9 roles that you might play in any uh, group or environment or team. And that's kind of like the edge that you have, what you bring to the table in those groups. The VIA character strengths is another one, and that's it reports on 24 different character strengths, or how I consider them our ways of being. I see the Clifton strengths kind of like our way of doing, their action words, and the VIA character strengths are kind of, again, our way of being with others, the things that are important to us innately. So lots of ways to learn more about ourselves, and it's so cool to be able to tie them back to the successes that we've had, the things that have been important to us throughout our lives.
Yeah, definitely. So, is there a difference between strength and strength? And the reason why I say that is because you could be strong at something, you know how to do it, you've been doing it all your life, and it's what you know how to do. And people can say this is your strength because you know how to do this. But then on the other hand, there's this other thing over here that you are strong in as well. But when you do this thing over here, it's just a totally different feeling. You light up, you do it with ease. And I'm gonna before you answer, I'm gonna give you an example. So I went to school, studied finance and business, always wanted to do it, got into the finance aspect of it, was doing the taxes and all that stuff. I knew how to do it. I know how to do it. It's my strength. But it's not something that I am so in love with and enthusiastic about. Fast forward to me joining the National Black MBA, start mentoring with high school students and adults and really working in that nonprofit space and being able to share my knowledge and see people transformed by me putting that energy out there. Even when talking about it, it lights me up. So there's a difference between strength and strength.
That's
So
I love it, Molly. I love it.
so, would you tell someone to focus on the strength or focus on the strength? Because another thing too is the strength might make you more money than the one that's really up over here. So, what would you say? What would you say to someone like that struggling to make that decision?
Oh, there's so many factors to consider, but there is I would I would encourage as much as possible to focus on the strengths, the big ones, the one that lights you up, the one that brings you joy, the one that where you find energy. I'll tell you, through the course of my training and uh, the work that I've through the course of my training, there's something on top of performance. There is an element of energy that's important for us to factor. For example, um, let's so when we talk about perform, we get that performance shows up as a strength, right? When I do something well, that looks like a strength.
Mhm.
But I would invite folks to consider the element of energy as well. So let's consider this. If there is something that you have no energy in, like you can't get excited about and you don't perform well, we can all agree that that's probably an area of weakness and not somewhere we want to be. Now, you can have high energy in something and low performance.
Mhm.
Right? There might be a hobby that you enjoy, you get really excited, but it's not something you can hang your hat on. It's not something that you can will may ever become profitable, or might be something where you're going to really make an impact. uh, it's great to have those hobbies. It's wonderful to have the things that we enjoy doing. Uh, but to consider the element, it might be a performance liability, not get you where you want to be. There could be also, and there are, those activities where there's high performance, something you do really well, but you can't get excited about it. It might even drain your energy.
Mhm.
That's an energy liability. We can't sustain that for too long. It's great that we're able to perform and do those things, but eventually we lose interest. We lose our ability to focus. We lose fulfillment when we stay there for too long. Where we want to be is where there's both,
Mhm.
where there's high energy and high performance, and we call that our optimal zone. So I would invite you to consider, is this your where your the networking and the teaching you're doing now and your involvement with students, is this your high energy, high performance space where you are on fire? Then I would encourage you to continue to pursue that. I know that right now you may not be able to let go of the other piece just yet, and that's okay. We're a lot of us are in the same boat. What's amazing is you have this thing to look forward to
Mm-hmm.
when you have the opportunity to support your students and do this amazing work and do these podcasts and put this content out there. Then when you keep at it and put your energy into it, Molly, things are going to happen. Things will happen. uh, Again, there are a lot of factors in the mix. I would encourage people to dream and to work in the direction of their optimal zone, and things will happen. uh, we you know, we remain practical and put energy into our areas where there is that zone of genius, where we are lit up and on fire, and trust the process. Trust that when I keep looking there and I keep putting energy and focus in that direction, uh, I'm lit up and it lights up people around me, and things are going to come together to make it happen, because you have something that you need to bring to the world, and you're investing in it, and the world needs it. So just keep at it.
This,
That's what I would encourage folks to do. Like I don't have a magic,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah.
you know.
And yeah, this is amazing. It's amazing tips. It's amazing advice. Someone listening to you right now is going to definitely get up and realize what their strengths are. I would say probably a good exercise to do as well is to get a piece of pen and paper and write down those strengths and really, if you want to interview your family
Yeah.
and the people around you and find out, what do you think I'm good at? What do you think my strengths are? And really let those sit within you to find out what you're good at. What would you say to someone who's because we've gone through such a hard time last year with COVID and everybody's inside and all that stuff. Now we're just coming out of it and we're trying to get back to the normal. And there is someone listening that is saying, I don't even know what I'm good at anymore. They might have lost the job and trying to see their head above water. And what encouragement would you give to that person where strength is concerned?
Oh my gosh, you have amazing things inside you. You have ways that you contribute in this world. Let's figure out what those are. Let's pull that out. And there's something about doing this work that gives us hope. We we forget. Excuse me, we forget. When we were kids, there were things we enjoyed doing and loved doing, and knew that we, you know, made an impact. And then something happens as we get older, and all these responsibilities are on that are that drain us, and we bury our dreams, we bury the things that we had hoped for. And what doing this work does is help us see where we truly make an impact. And we might discover something there that can be that you can tap into for a future job, or a future business opportunity, or a way to uh, heal a relationship. Doing this work gives hope. We start to see the positive side of ourselves instead of focusing on the negative. And I think that that's a message all of us need right now, is a little bit of hope and excitement about the future. So I would invite folks to, uh, and I'll share the link with you, Molly, if you want to put it in your show notes. Would love to get on a call with anyone that wants to explore doing some work together.
Mhm.
And I promise in our time, whether we continue and work together or not, in that 45 minutes, you will get a glimpse of who you are and hope and excitement about, just to kind of re-energize, uh, to see yourself in a different light. That's my gift to you.
Yeah, I'm excited because what you talk about, it's almost like a healing process when you meet with your clients and you really dig deep to pull that strength out of them. When you see that come to fruition, how is it for you? Is it a healing process for your client, and also do you get something from it in the process as well?
Every time, every time, Molly, there is, for me, there is nothing more fulfilling than finishing up a coaching call and knowing we struck a chord, or there was an aha moment,
Hmm.
or I see them, I physically see them sit up a little taller
Hmm.
in their chair. They're smiling, or they're more relaxed. I all aspects, all physical and all the senses. I feel it and I see it, and for me there is nothing more amazing. And when we see the good in ourselves, um, we live in such a deficit thinking society. We never take any time to celebrate our successes. We might for a few minutes, and then we're quickly on to the next thing. And evaluating, what didn't I do right, what do I need to fix, what do I need to make better.
Hmm.
We don't invest and take stock of what's right and what's good and what I can leverage in achieving my dreams and moving myself and my family and my team and my project forward. And that's where I just want to shift the focus. I'm not saying ignore the weakness. We can't ignore the weakness. There's work that needs to be done, yes. But when we do it from a positive mindset, we're going to overcome. I can't fix anything from the negative space. I have to I have to move into a positive mindset and see the good so that I can address the things that are needed.
Awesome. So so awesome. I can sit and listen to you talk about strengths all day. But I wanted to ask you this question because it's part of strengths, and I see that you mentioned it in your notes as well that you sent me. And it's a question that a lot of people get when they're interviewing for a job and or something, and the interviewer might ask you to tell me about your strengths and weaknesses. How would you advise someone to answer this question when that question is posed to them?
Yeah. Well, I'm going to start by saying that I'm not an interview coach. I will never. But I've taken, this is advice I've received from interview coaches, and work that we do. Um, Let me preface it by saying I'm a confidence coach,
Mm,
shift up coach. So I
mhm,
help people prepare for their interviews. And so I've received advice from interview coaches. Let me share some of that with you, along with my experience and the work that we've done in this area. First of all, tailor your answers, of course, to the position that you're interviewing for. So study the job description carefully and make sure that you're talking about the strengths that are relevant, and that are desired for this position. First thing. Secondly, support each strength with concrete examples, stories of how you demonstrated that strength. Um, and not only demonstrate it, but what kind of results did you get because you showed up with that strength? And what was the impact that was made because you showed up with that strength, because you used it and demonstrated it? So those are really important to get clear on, to document, and be ready to share in an interview. With regards to weakness, uh, it's such a frustrating question,
Yeah, that's a
honestly,
big one.
honestly. But so interview coaches will, will say, to be honest, and we all have areas of weakness. Uh, and I will say, AKA points of frustration. Um, Needs, we all have needs or conditions that in order for us to perform at our best. So the advice that's given is don't try to outsmart the hiring manager or use your strength, for example, as a weakness. Oh, I work too hard, or I'm a perfectionist. Rather, share an area of frustration in your life, in your work, and demonstrate um, how you overcome it, how you work around it, mitigate that area of weakness, that frustration, or that unmet need that you have. So think about, what strategies do you use to overcome or work around? Do you ask for help? Do you have any tips, tricks, techniques that help you deal with that situation? Is there any training that you've received that's helped you a little bit? Perhaps, and this is work that we do together, do you use your strengths to work around areas of weakness? So those are things to think about and prepare as you are uh, getting ready for those interviews. Does that help?
Yeah, those are some really great tips. I was laughing earlier because it's so funny when I got out of undergrad and I was asked those questions when I went to interviews and they got to the weakness part. I was coached to switch a strength into a weakness and put
Yeah.
it back to a strength. And
Yeah.
when you give the example of that I'm a perfectionist part, I literally laughed because I remember giving that same answer in multiple interviews. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
So there's other ways to talk about perfectionist tendencies. That you have a hard time, deciding when, good is good enough, and this is how I work around it. There are ways to uh, and say, I know this is an area I struggle with, and uh, maybe I set a deadline, or put a timer on. I only give myself 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Whatever the technique is that you've adopted over the course of your career, just be honest, and don't try to be something that you're not in the interview. Be you.
Yes. It's always good to be you. Be genuine and
Yeah.
authentic. This is really great, Nomine. And before we close, I wanted to give you an opportunity to talk about the new offering that you're going to be stepping into, which is positive intelligence. What do you want to tell us about that?
Ah, positive intelligence. It's this idea of building up our mental fitness. And mental fitness is our capacity to handle life's challenges with a positive mindset instead of a negative mindset. And and what we talk about are building up three core muscles in order to increase our mental fitness. From a physical fitness standpoint, right, we have a ton of muscles that we need to build and work on and increase in order to uh, improve our physical fitness. From a mental fitness capacity, there are three core muscles that we need to work on, and uh, that's the essence of the presentation that I'll be giving uh, later this week, and um, a new program that I'm offering that I'm including in my coaching programs. That I'm super excited. It's made a huge difference for me. I am more at ease. I am more able to handle things that normally would have jarred me, that would have left me uh, really frustrated or anxious for a period of time. I My anxiety levels have diminished, and I'm in a different place because of this work, because I'm building up these core muscles. So I'm super excited to bring this work to my clients and further further the effectiveness of their strengths when we can quiet the voices in our heads that sabotage us. And that's what this work is all about. Stopping the sabotaging and increasing the our ability to be creative and with a clear head. So I'm sure I botched it, but I hope people get the essence of what it's about, and I
No,
can't wait to share more.
it's awesome. Mental
Yeah.
mental health has been, it's very important, and it has been talked about a lot more since COVID, because we've seen a lot of people going through hard times and not really sure how to deal with it. So it's good that you're incorporating this into your coaching, and I'm sure, without a doubt, that it's going to help. It's going to help a lot of people. So I commend you for seeing something that is needed and for doing that. That is very, very important.
Thank you.
Well, Nermine, this was awesome. We had a few hiccups in the beginning to start this podcast, but
Regret?
nothing is going to stop the network hour,
No.
because we need to bring you valuable content and give you something to listen to for the weekend. So we are just excited to bring this information to you. I want to thank Nermine so much for stopping by and talking to us about playing up to our strengths. I hope you guys listen and take some of the tips that she's given. And I'm going to put all the links in the podcast notes, and also her information if you want to work with her, just to get back on track and get your mind in that great headspace. So that is awesome. I want to thank you so much for listening to the Network Hour podcast. And this is your coach, Molly Crease, and I want you to have a good rest of the Friday and enjoy your weekend. Listen to the podcast, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much, Nermine.
Thank you so much, Molly.
Live, laugh, and love, people. Thank you so much. Bye.